Hello, my beauties. Welcome to episode, we're up to 106 of In the Flow of Magic, primarily taking midlife goddesses from burnout, stress, anxiety to a blissful, flowing life. So today, first I want to wish you Happy New Year. As I'm recording this, it is the 1st of January, 2024. So Happy New Year. Sending blessings and positive energy out to you as you're enjoying this, whatever day you're first hearing this. So what do I want to share with you today? I invite you to go back and listen to my episode 105, where I talked about the sacral chakra and really went in depth on what yin means for women. I'm sure you've heard of yin and yang, but in terms of what it really breaks down to mean for our health and our well-being, check out that episode. And so today I want to share a little bit with you about what I think is the underlying issue for a lot of us women at this point in time in history with all that is going on. I think that there is a lot of wounding of the feminine that many of us, and especially those of you who consider yourself very driven, very high-performing women, some of this might sound challenging, but I think there is a wounding that has happened to our feminine aspect. So that little girl, as you were growing up, got wounded, and there are certain repercussions. So that's what I want to talk about today in the context of the divine feminine, because I know for some of you that really may not resonate. The sort of, you might have an idea of the feminine that's often presented to us that is still very stereotypical. At its core, it has a very sort of limited scope when you hear feminine. And so this is for you. I think this will be a great conversation for you. And I want to hear your feedback, your comments. The feminine can manifest in many, many ways. And in fact, I think that part of the rise of the divine feminine is some of what we're seeing in a lot of the sort of gender and identity movements. I think it's some sort of play out of the divine feminine in various ways that may have some positive underneath, but I think it's literally an energy that I don't want to go off too much into that, but I think there is definitely something around the acquisition of the feminine that's going on. Okay, but let's set that aside. And here I'm speaking to women who, as I said, many of us have been wounded. The feminine has been wounded. So what does that mean? I'm going to sort of share some of what I've written on my website, which is intheflowofmagic.com. So some signs of the sacral chakra energy and feminine wounding. Now, the sacral chakra is the second chakra in the body, the second major chakra. It is located around below the belly button and above the pubic bone, just right in the lower abdomen, the pelvis. And so that sacral chakra is very, very important, especially for women. If you want me to say more on that, drop me a line, drop me a comment, and I can expand on it. But so one of the signs of feminine wounding, is feeling cut off from your body and feeling cut off from your feelings. Your feelings and cut off from your body, being a little bit out of touch with yourself at times, right? Doesn't mean all the time. Sometimes an underlying malaise, I just like that word, malaise, like a sadness or a lack of vitality. Because that sacral chakra, along with the other chakras in the body, but has very much to do with joy and pleasure. Svadhisthana, which is the name for the sacral chakra, means sweetness. It's alluding to, especially in women's case, the center of their sexuality is very much at that sacral chakra. We'll talk more about that. Also, some signs of feminine wounding are feeling easily emotionally thrown off. Now, this has been something for me as well. Thrown off by other people, their emotions, their feelings, and being thrown off by events, like losing your center. Some of you may know that in martial arts, it's said that the center of our energy, our power, is somewhere between 2 and 4 finger widths beneath the belly button, getting really sacral chakra location. So, and the final sign that I'm going to share of feminine wounding, issues with the sacral chakra, with that energy, are it's ungrounded, feeling lack of focus or lack of personal power and agency. That also has to do very much with the third chakra. And let's talk about some signs of physical signs of this wounding, what I'm calling feminine wounding. So, as you may know, there is the concept, everything starts in energy first, almost as a blueprint, and then it solidifies later into the 3D world, into the actual world. So the physical is the next stage of manifestation. So I just want to talk about that, and talking about women as 3 stages of life. The maiden, I just love how that sounds. I know it's very old-fashioned, but the maiden stage, the mother stage, whether or not you decide to become a mother, and the wise woman stage. So some physical signs that something is off for us as women with that sacred sacral chakra energy is, and the maiden phase is period issues. So issues with menstruation, painful, too long, too short. That's very common. So something is off with our energy if that happens. It's not normal. Okay. One of the things I wrote is that the female reproductive system, we're very, very sensitive to stress. If you take nothing else from this, it's that we are very sensitive to stress, and it tends to go right to our hormonal system, to the reproductive or sexual system. Let's talk about the mother phase. The period issues can continue, right? Your 20s, your 30s. But for some of us who have wanted to have children, it can be infertility. Yes, it can be very difficult, very painful, the infertility. And again, pointing to an issue, obviously, with the reproductive system. Okay? And finally, that wise woman stage, which is perimenopause and menopausal, and some of the issues that we can have that show signs that there might have been some wounding to the feminine. Some signs in that stage of life are disturbed sleep cycle, right? And this is, we're undergoing physical change. So there's definitely that. In this stage, it's kind of reflecting our whole lifelong journey. And so, yes, there's definitely literally physical causes, but some women and some cultures, in fact, go through this phase with much more ease. Okay, so disturbed sleep cycle, poor sleep, leading to poor concentration, leading to lack of energy, low desire, memory issues, forgetfulness, and also lack of lubrication, for intercourse. And so those are some issues that come up in that stage. So again, to me, what I'm talking about is beyond some of this, which is natural. If you're having more difficulty, I just want you to consider that it could be that there needs to be work on the feminine and dealing with some issues as women that may have come up in childhood. Okay? So let me share a little bit more on that. So again, the sacral chakra means sweetness, and a lot of the issues I just mentioned to you in the maiden, mother, or menopausal wise woman stage have to do with yin. So we can have, there are 2 basic polarities. we can be deficient in yin, and that would be someone who's having like scanty periods, and it can be one of the causes of infertility is sort of the lack of yin. But it can also be excess, not excess yin, but excess what Ayurveda would call ama, like when you have things like blockages, it's like excess that the body isn't able to break down. Basically, we want to be in the middle energetically, not sort of undernourished and not overnourished or overactive almost. So anyway, continuing on, I'm just going to go through some of the ways that we can work with healing this wounding that I think has happened for many of us. So overall, in our modern culture, the feminine is denigrated. You only have to look at the Supreme Court overturning after, 30 years, Roe versus Wade, which simply gave women a choice. It did not force women, obviously, to have an abortion, but it gave her and involved parties the choice, right? To see that taken away after so long. And as we know, many parts of the world, women's rights are still extremely limited. So there is this pushback against the feminine, and that I posit that that's been happening for thousands of years through patriarchy, which is a dominance beyond the strengths of men. For example, physical strength, where it's encoded in the religion, in history, in the culture, that there's a certain level of control over women that is necessary. And as many of you know, there were times way back, there's evidence around the world that there were cultures where women were treated more equally and valued. They were not treated like men, but they were valued equally. Okay, I think that's really key. So what I'm saying, the conclusion I'm drawing is that for many of us women, a lot of the suffering, whether physical, emotional, or mental, is caused by the removal of the divine feminine, especially from spirituality, from like wisdom systems. There are cultures where, of course, the feminine, the goddess, is still, it didn't die out. Many cultures in Africa, and some in South America, India, for example. But in many of the dominant religions, literally the female is having any divine impetus was removed, okay? And this is in the historical record. It is being found out more and more. For many decades, there have been research showing this. Because when you think about it, if you think about the divine, even thinking from our human level, and you look all around you, there is always in creation a masculine and a feminine. There's a pair. And so the interesting idea of a sole male god with no feminine pairing is just interesting and unusual, and so there were matriarchal cultures, or cultures that were much more, women had their power, their beauty, their skills were not denigrated. So I want to talk a little bit about how we might want to heal that. And again, this might be difficult for those of us who have been, I believe, taught to function in a more masculine model. Okay, because it is viewed, for example, rationality being step by step, basically functioning in a very specific way that is not necessarily our strength. Even going so far in terms of pushing for our careers, and I am a career woman myself, not in any way saying women shouldn't have careers, that would be absurd, but the approach to the career of pushing does not tend to serve most women. In fact, there is a European doctor who has a coaching program. I cannot remember the name, but a friend shared with me that this doctor, from her medical knowledge, put together a thesis that men can function very well pushing and aggressively. They have more testosterone. They have more of certain hormones that enable that, just literally. And so when we try to really push, say, burning the candle at both ends and be more assertive, more aggressive, what we're doing is we're pulling from cortisol. We're pulling from stress hormones in order to do that. Now, stress hormones are meant to be if you're being chased by a tiger and you need to save your child and you need to save yourself. We're not meant to run on stress hormones. Okay, so I'll just take a pause there. And some of this is deep common sense that but I'm just bringing it out to you to consider. So what can we do? Some things that I think we can do and that I am teaching in my new program, which is Awaken the Divine Feminine. And I want to stop here and do a commercial for myself, because this Awaken the Sacred Feminine, Awaken the Divine Feminine is a live coaching program. I'm running it for the very first time, pulling together material that I have had with brand new material, and again, teaching it live. If you are interested, please go to my website, which is intheflowofmagic.com. This program is open to all women. You are welcome. You don't have to be a certain age, a certain background, a certain country. You are welcome to be in this program. So some solutions to this hurt or damage to the feminine aspect, which, as I pointed out, some of the harm, the physical harm, I gave some of the symptoms that we'll have physical symptoms, very common. A really basic example is many women who have toxic jobs. I mean, we could have a whole other discussion on that. They start to have physical health problems. I think much more so than men. Our bodies show our discomfort. They show our emotions, I believe, much, much more than for the male. So some things I'll be teaching is sacred movement. And sacred movement, what I mean by that is there are techniques to build fire and purify around the area of the belly, which is our power center, the third chakra. And again, for women, that sacral chakra is so key. So movement, subtle movements that we can do to work that area and build fire, a purifying energy to help us basically break down stagnation, to break down whether that's physical or emotional stagnation in that area, because there's always a correlation between the physical and the emotional. Okay, so movement through the whole pelvis and belly to help move the prana, move the chi in that area. Often, especially those with fibroids and issues like that, that's stagnation. Right? You could almost call it an excess of yin, but yin is a positive, so yin isn't the right word for that, but it's fibroids and cysts and things are the body sort of instead of knowing when to stop and to kind of clean itself and balance itself, there's an overgrowth. So sacred movement to bring some fire and some circulation to that area. I hope that makes sense. Chakra work, I recommend working with the sacral chakra, doing sounding for the sacral chakra, and just simply meditation on the chakra. And a key point that I'm doing in my program is joining the feminine chakras, that is the sacral chakra and the heart. And I can say more about that. Let me know in the comments or give a rating where you just mention it. Wherever you're listening, there's usually a way where you can comment. Or you can reach out to assistant at intheflowofmagic.com. That will get to me. Assistant at intheflowofmagic, and put podcast in the subject line. So we will work with, in my program, and I suggest for women to work with connecting the sacral chakra, that energy of sensuality, joy, pleasure, almost like literally fun, joy, right? The opposite of that overwork burnout, joining that to the heart chakra. Those are two of the feminine chakras in the body. Okay, they alternate as like more masculine, more feminine in everyone. We're going to, in my program, I will do an introduction to Shamanic Journeying. Now, Shamanic Journeying, some of you have done it. It's wonderful to basically start to get in touch with your guides, beings, archetypes. We will be doing it specifically to find and to begin to work with a goddess archetype that will be almost our mentor. Okay, so this is unusual. This is pretty deep, weaving this together. I don't know of anybody else combining these things. This is very unique. So I will introduce Shamanic Journeying in the program, and that's something you can also look into yourself if you're not able to be, in the structured program. And creating sacred space, creating space in your home and thus in your life for the feminine to re-emerge, to re-enter. Because again, the idea is that if we can start to see divinity or the highest consciousness as having feminine aspects, we can begin to value ourselves as manifestations of that, okay, of the divine feminine. I mentioned on my website Sekhmet, Isis, Freya, Mary Magdalene. There's so many divine feminine, Hathor. So many. There are warrior goddesses, Kali. There are crone goddesses. There are Celtic goddesses. There's goddesses from every long intact culture, right? So, and there were in ancient Europe. It just got covered over in certain parts of the world more thoroughly. In parts of Asia, of course, as I mentioned, there are many different goddesses, Southeast Asia as well as East Asia. Japan and China, there are goddesses. We will also do guided meditations. Now, meditation is the key way to get back in touch with the feminine, because the feminine and the yin very much has to do with stillness and inner versus outer, going inside. So meditation is going within, and we're going to do some embodiment meditations. Embodiment is about really fully feeling your body, feeling your aliveness, and it is typically very pleasant, especially as you work through any trauma that there may be. So this program isn't for those who are deeply traumatized. That I would recommend therapy. This is when you are definitely healed, I would say, primarily mostly healed, functioning well. So we'll definitely have guided meditations, and something I'm very excited about is healing touch. I will, from my massage therapy practice, we will do 2 different types of self-massage that are very healing, and they're going to help us build our yin energy. The yin is the fluids in the body that both men and women have and need, but women, we definitely need a little bit more of that yin energy. It's what keeps us moist, keeps our skin. It's all the fluids, whether it's saliva, the fluid in the eyes, all the blood, but all fluids in the body, sexual fluids, moisture is sort of the evidence of yin. And so we need that. The best way you can think of it, as I get ready we're going to close very soon, but the best way to think of it is think of a little baby and then think of a very, very old person. And the difference in their appearance is literally the plumpness, right? So think of the baby's face, how their skin is plump and soft, versus as we get older, what happens? We dry and shrivel, and that's the loss of yin. That's the loss of the yin essence, right? When we think somebody looks youthful, it's because they are not as dry, thinner. I mean, and I'm saying just, an unnatural thinness, like a thinness that is a result of age, not just somebody who's normally thin. But those are literally manifestations of what youthfulness is and what as we age happens. And that is natural. But what we're going to be learning in the program is how to maintain the yin for longer, which will help us feel better. We'll also do some earth connection practices, very much the divine feminine and healing. We have to heal through the planet, through nature, and we'll journal to kind of keep track of everything. So these are some ways that you can explore. And if you would like to, again, the program is enrolling right now as we speak, and it begins on, I believe it's the 13th of January. And this is the beta run. I would love for you to be in the beta run because there are some benefits. The price is lower. if you're in the very first run. And I'm going to shape the program depending on the feedback of the women who participate. So it's a really wonderful, if you want to be in something new and really be engaged and, working with me live in a group setting, then this is the time. Do register. It's over on my website, intheflowofmagic.com. So again, the mission is to have women feel more joyful, more embodied, more like juicy is the word, like in our bodies, in our mind, to be filled with ojas. Ojas is like energy. It's like juice. It's like life force and power, and to have that be really strong and vital in our lives. So do check it out. The program currently it's called Awaken the Sacred Feminine, Awaken the Divine Feminine, that program. And again, it starts very soon. If you're listening to this way after, you can of course, always go to my website, intheflowofmagic.com. But I did a poll. I wanted to see if women were interested in this. And it's just the promise of this program, Awaken the Sacred Feminine, is that it's running 5 weeks this first time. It will probably evolve and change, again, depending on what the first group tells me and what I see from the first run of the program. But the idea is that even in the 5 weeks, you will have methods that leave you feeling amazing, healthier, nourished, a lot of basically loved up, self-loved up. So just wanted to share that with you. And again, this concept that I'm really seeing of us being depleted, and that it would help to have the divine feminine as almost like a touchstone for us as women. So I look forward to the next podcast. And again, feel free to comment or share over at assistant, spelled normally, at In the Flow of Magic, and the website is intheflowofmagic.com. I hope this shared some insights and got you thinking about your life, or particular aspects of your life might have resonated with you. And I look forward to sharing more soon. Stay blissed and blessed. Bye-bye.